Imagine waking up not to an alarm, but to the sound of an incoming strike. The windows shake, somewhere nearby, a car alarm goes off, and a couple of minutes later, your phone rings. We have three kids here and a grandmother. We can't get out on our own. Please come and take us. There is a man who doesn't turn his phone off. He takes his car keys and simply drives. I want to tell you the story about one of those people who choose to drive straight into the war to save those who can't save themselves. People online know him by his nickname. He's not a politician, not a general, not a face from a poster. He's just a man who got into his car and went to the places most of us hope we'll never have to see in real life. This is the story of a Ukrainian volunteer who walks the thin line between life and death on Ukraine's road every single day to evacuate other people's parents, other people's children, other people's grandparents from the hottest zones. The city itself and every village around it are under constant fire. He turns off the main road from Avdiivka towards a village called Berdichi. He drives into the settlement and starts asking if there are still any locals left who need to be evacuated to a safer place.
Бажаю здоров'я! Що по місцевим тут є хтось?
And then an explosion.
Наші? Хлопці наші?
He runs back to the car to drive towards the place where the blast came from. It was an incoming strike. Someone puts a wounded Ukrainian soldier into his car. The man is groaning in pain. From the way he forces him to keep talking, repeating over and over, "Stay with me."
Тримайся, чуєш? Розговаривай со мною!
He asks him about his wife and children and tells him he has to survive for them. He delivers the wounded soldier to the medics. Today, the first time he has ever evacuated a soldier. People call him the Dutchman. Why? As Denis Christoph himself explains, the first cars he used to evacuate people had Dutch license plates. He takes civilians out of the hottest zone in Ukraine, risking his own life every time. Sometimes people send him messages asking for help, and when there are no requests, he simply gets into his car himself and drives into the hellish places where someone might still be left behind. Another evacuation request. One man is left alone on an entire street that no longer exists. Just gone. Wiped out. He calls out looking for this one person and eventually he finds him.
Ах, ти неуловимий, бляха! Поехали, друже.
Страшно, блядь.
Та пизда, не то слово.
The man is living together with his neighbor. Denise tells them to pack as fast as they can because enemy drones are circling above. They run towards the car together.
Швидше, швидше, швидше! Быстрей!
A powerful explosion hits nearby.
Быстрей!
They fall to the ground. Denise shouts, "Faster, they've seen us." Civilians out to a safer place. He opens the door and he is met by a look. Sometimes it's the look of a child who learned too early what fear is. Sometimes it's the look of a grown man who is ashamed that he can't fully protect his family. Sometimes it's the look of a grandmother who's seen everything in this life, but never thought she would see war again. You have 10 minutes. Take only what really matters, he says. And in that moment, people suddenly understand that what really matters is not the things, but the people standing next to them. Every kilometer is like another throws of the dice. You don't know what's behind the next tree line, just a field, or a crater from yesterday's strike. You don't know if the bridge ahead is still there, but you keep driving because in your car are people who trust you more than they trust the news. Outside, the scars of war. Destroyed houses, black empty windows, burned cars swallowed by grass. You've seen this hundreds of times in videos online, but it's one thing to scroll past it in the feed. It's something completely different to drive right past it and realize someone lived there. Now all of that is just a backdrop to your evacuation road. The next story moved me actually so deeply. Denise evacuates 71 goats and a group of civilians. One of the goats is called Little Darling, you know.
Лапочка. А? Лапочка, дай лапку.
In the car, Denise is literally surrounded by goats. He smiles, he jokes, and says how cute they are. You know, I've noticed that he often jokes and talks with civilians as he takes them away from hellish places. It's not just small talk. It's a way to give people back the feeling that they are still alive. That life is not only sirens and breaking news about another strike. He has spent so many hours on these roads that he knows every turn better than the street by his own home. But every trip feels like the first because there are no guarantees here. And then finally, the broken road turns into a normal asphalt. The rumble of explosions fades behind you. You enter a city where stores are still open, where kids are walking to school, where car alarms go off because of traffic, not shockwaves, you know. People get out of the car, someone is crying, someone simply says thank you, holding your hand a little longer than usual. You are left with simple words. Thank you for getting us out. Sometimes they say we wouldn't have made it without you. Sometimes it's just a look with more emotion in it than in any post online. The news rarely talks about people like this. Their names don't flash in headlines, they don't sit in negotiation tables, they don't cite documents, but very often it depends on them whether someone will live long enough to see the day those documents are finally signed. You watch this footage and you might think like, this is insane. Why does he keep going there? The answer is simpler than it seems because one day when your phone rings and someone says, there are kids here, there is a sick mother, there are people with no one else to call, you either press decline or you get in the car. He chose the second option. You know, he's not a superhero, he's just a human being like you. The only difference is that every day he makes a choice to drive in places where fear is not an episode, but the background noise of life. Every trip is a risk, every trip is a chance, and every time another family steps out of his car, he literally brings people back to life. In this war, there are thousands of anonymous heroes. Those who hold the front, those who repair power lines, those who can field kitchens, those who do everything they can so that someone else's today doesn't become their last day. And he is one of them. One of those who quietly, without big words, sitting behind the wheel of an old car, every single day drive people out of hell. If this story touched you, remember, behind every headline about war, there are real people. And sometimes the difference between we didn't make it and we got out in time is just one person behind the wheel.